But let's move on. Let's figure out what's happening with Info Edge, what's happening with the jobs market. Hitesh Oberoi, MD and CEO, joins in on the show right now. Hitesh, hi, morning. Good to have you on the show. Help us understand, firstly, out of curiosity, where is it that you are seeing hirings happen, and where is it that it seems like it's a muted market?
2024-25 started off on a muted note, but it's ended on a high, at least for us. Naukri billings were up 18% year on year in Q4, which is also our seasonally strongest quarter. And we saw actually hiring sentiment pick up across the board. It's not a hot hiring market, but it's a reasonably modest hiring market. It's not a lukewarm market either. So there's enough action in enough sectors, including IT. At least companies are replacing, even IT services companies are replacing the people who are leaving. So it's not a bad market, and we are happy with our performance.
हितेश भाई कैसे हो?
बिल्कुल बढ़िया.
I am looking at your numbers, and there are three brokerage reports, and they are saying that it's time to cut revenue estimates and margin estimates for FY26 because there seems to be a stress in the job hiring market. Will you prove the brokerage is wrong this year again?
We will try our best. Like I said, we started the year with last year before last, 23-24 was almost 0% growth. Last year, Q1 was 7% growth for Naukri. We ended the year at 18%. So our growth has been accelerating for the last few quarters. Of course, it's a very unpredictable geopolitical environment. Anything can happen anytime. So hard to say what's going to happen going forward. But if India continues to grow at 6.5%, we will try and sustain our growth rates. Of course, we are also trying to innovate a lot more than earlier. So we've launched a series of new features. Some of our smaller businesses under the recruitment umbrella are also now beginning to get some momentum. The Naukri Gulf business is doing well. The candidate services business has been growing well. The IIMJobs business has been growing well. We started monetizing JobHai, blue collar platform. It's very tiny right now, but last year we monetized JobHai, did 6 crores from JobHai as well. It's a long-term growth story for us, hopefully. And the other businesses also, 99Acres, again, started the year in the low teens, ended the year at 22% billing growth. Jeevan Sathi, close to breaking even. In fact, all our non-recruitment businesses put together generated cash last year for the first time. So we're not complaining. Of course, we are investing aggressively in AI. We are investing aggressively in the blue collar platform. We are investing aggressively in 99Acres, where we are gaining share quarter on quarter. So these investments are long-term. They're strategic. They will continue. And in the end, margins will be a function of where our top line ends up.
When I say Info Edge, the immediate reaction by everyone is, oh, the company that got Zomato right, the company that got Policy Bazaar right, that is the exciting part. But if one really looks at the current portfolio positioning and companies which are due to go public, can I say that for next 12 to 18 months, there's unlikely to be any sizable other income as none of your investee companies are due to go public?
Very hard for me to comment. See, there are some who are getting ready, for sure. They are in conversation to go public. Whether they'll go public in 12 months or 18 months or 24 months is hard for me to say. But we have a whole portfolio of companies out there. There are at least 100 of companies we are invested in. Some are more mature than the others. Some are very recent investments. Therefore, they will take a long time to mature. Others are sort of companies which we invested in a few years ago. Enough of them are doing well, and some are getting ready. Whether they'll go public in 12 or 24 months or 36 months, hard for me to say at this stage.
One of the mainstays of Naukri has been IT recruitment or IT services. A, there is a slowdown in the sector. B, average billing rates, if I may use the word, they've not gone higher. And C, there is a genuine AI disruption. So given that there is a bit of a shakeout at the business, which is the heart of your business, how are you likely to fend it? How are you likely to ensure that does not impact the big picture?
Firstly, ITs, and we just released this data, this pie chart. IT services and BPM and tech companies directly are about 25 to 27% of our revenue. Of course, there are recruitment consultants is another big chunk, about 25%. And then GCCs are now 16-17% of our revenue. And then there are all the other non-IT companies which make up the rest. So it's not as if, we are I mean, we are dependent, but we are not so dependent on IT service companies as we were perhaps 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Number one. The second point I want to make is our revenue is more a function of gross hiring, not net hiring. So if attrition picks up, we benefit, even if the company stays with the same headcount, right? Companies, if they have to replace people or if they have to replace more people who are leaving, and most of these are lateral hires, that helps us. So if for some reason the movement starts, job seekers start moving towards GCCs and there's higher attrition elsewhere as a result, that helps our business, even if the the headcount at these companies doesn't go up. The third point I want to make is it's not as if all the hiring is happening through us. So, 40% of maybe all hiring in IT services companies happens through Naukri. Maybe it's 30% in non-IT service companies. So there's still headroom for us to grow our hiring share with these companies. And that's what we are working on all the time. We are working on a host of AI offerings, data offerings, which will help us garner a higher share of the wallet from these customers over time. Now, of course, I'm sure our competition is also working on some of these things. And in the end, the better products will win. But I think there is still more opportunity, even with IT services companies, because it's not as if they're doing all their hiring through us.
All right. Hi, Mr. Oberoi. This is Shrishti also joining in. But I just wanted to touch upon the point that you were making that some of the companies are getting ready for listing. It's hard for you to help us with the timeline, but any company you believe will be the first one, or rather amongst the first one to get listed, if you can help us with some names there.
I don't know. I don't know. And it's not my sort of, I don't think I'm the right person to comment, because there are all kinds of conversations, discussions, and there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. As we all know, it's also a function of the markets and how they are going to perform over the next 12, 18 months, what kind of valuations they can expect. Ultimately, their boards and their managements will decide as to when to take those companies public. We are just investors in these companies.
All right. But along with that, Hitesh, help us understand that how is the company leveraging the AI across the platform? Is the focus more on user engagement to get a better operational efficiency, or maybe you are looking for some monetization as well?
No, firstly, I want to make a broader point. See, this AI disruption is for real, and it's both a threat and an opportunity for every company. And not just every company, I think it's a big opportunity for the country as well. We need to, in my view, AI will, of course, disrupt a lot of jobs, but it will also create a lot of jobs. And the jobs of the future will be very different from the jobs of today. It's very important that we train our workforce and upskill the people who are already in the existing, who are in the currently in the workforce, and educate the ones who are likely to enter the workforce going forward on how to use AI. They should grow up to become AI literate. They should not be scared of AI. They should learn how to leverage AI. As far as we are concerned, and AI is evolving very, very rapidly. So if you would ask me this question 2 years ago or 1 year ago, I would have given you a very different answer, perhaps. But we are seeing several use cases for AI in our company. One is the standard use case, which is using AI for productivity improvements, which is how do we make our people more efficient and more productive. If they were doing something in 7 days earlier, can we make them do it in 3 days? So that's of course one big opportunity. The second is, like you said, there's opportunity on the B2B side, which is for our customers. So we are already beta testing a sourcing automation agentic AI offering with some of our customers, and we're going to move into commercial beta very soon. It's getting a decent response. So we're building new products using AI. We are adding a lot more features and functionalities to our existing products using AI. For the several years now, we've been working on improving our algorithms, machine learning algorithms, to improve our matching engine, search engine, recommendation engines. And wherever we've deployed the latest AI models, we've seen a 15 to 20% kicker in our metrics. So there's a whole bunch of use cases, and it's not as if AI is being used only in product development. On the user side also, we haven't actually made a lot of investment as yet on the user side, but I think we should do more on the user side as well, because I'm sure you must be seeing for yourself, a lot of people are now interacting very differently with because of ChatGPT and Claude with the internet, right? So Google search, for example, used to be maybe 3 keywords, 4 keywords on the average. Today, entire paragraphs are being written, and voice is being used to interact a lot more with the internet. So I think that is where everything will move, and we need to be ahead of the curve. We need to invest ahead of the curve, and we will do that going forward. So AI, it's a horizontal technology, and it's not as if AI is just going to be limited to a product. We are going to be leveraging AI in our finance department. We're going to be leveraging AI in our HR teams everywhere.
Let's wrap it up with this latest news that you are looking at 1,000 crore fund. I'm assuming that this 1,000 crore would be another fund where you would be looking at making fresh investments. How did you arrive at this number of 1,000 crore, and what could be the shelf life of this fund? And minus this 1,000 crore, what happens to cash in the balance sheet?
So, we are sitting on around, I think last I checked, we had about 4,800 crores of cash, between between Info Edge and our subsidiary companies. And the Naukri business.
Hitesh bhai, this is a problem of plenty. You don't know. Last time I checked, the cash was 4,000 rupees. Every day I know my money in the bank account because there's very little there.
So, we of course need to deploy this cash productively. There is some cash we need for operations and for rainy days. And if there is an acquisition opportunity which comes our way. Outside that, of course, we give dividends to shareholders. We just announced a dividend. We upped the dividend this year. But after that also, there's a lot of cash which is left and which can be deployed. We have been very successful at, spotting companies early. So we continue to make early stage investments. And normally the fund life is long, is like 10+2 or 12+2 in most of the funds we sort of do, because it takes a long time for a company to make it in India. It's not as if you get a company making it really big in 3 or 4 years. Often it takes 10 or 12 years for companies to make it. Normally, when we announce a fund, it takes 3 or 4 years to deploy the capital in these to find these companies and to do the first round, and then there are follow-on rounds going forward. So in the more successful companies, we do follow-ons and so on and so forth. So that's how this all works. So we've approved 1,000 crores of fresh investments, and these will be deployed. I suspect over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Say that. Any sectors, industries, any themes that you may have already identified, Hitesh?
So we are more, bottom-up driven rather than top-down. So we look at what's bubbling up and where the action is, and we back good ideas and good teams in spaces we understand. So of course, I'm sure we'll be doing a lot of AI investments. We've been also doing some deep tech investments. So we'll, of course, remain mostly around tech because that's what we understand. We are unlikely to do a lot of offline sort of investments. But like I said, it's this year philosophy. We put in a small check first, see how the company performs. If they do well, put in a little more money. If they do well, get other investors, get validation, put in more money, back them till the end if they're doing well. And that approach will continue.
Existing portfolio companies, which will also find a piece of this 1,000 crores?
So there are different funds, it depends on from which fund those companies were invested in and who the LPs are in that fund. So that's a little more complex. Yeah. But like I said, we would want to continue to back companies we are positive on for a long time.
Info Edge has got a fund, and I have a follow-up question. So this 1,000 crore is coming from the balance sheet of Info Edge, right? There are no LPs. It's not like a fund open to some LPs where you're jointly investing. This is 1,000 crore of shareholder money of Info Edge, right?
1,000 crore is what Info Edge has approved. Okay. And in the fund, we could have other partners as well.
Okay. And this would be managed by Mr. Bikhchandani and his team?
We have technically, there is an AIF structure. There are partners in the AIF. Okay, they manage the fund. Sanjeev is not a partner, but he does sort of oversee, from an investment standpoint, because Info Edge is a large LP in these funds. So he actually does oversee the investments.
So it's 1,000 crore of investment. When the investment would be locked in, the money comes into the balance sheet of Info Edge, and that's where the shareholders would benefit. To cut a long story, to keep keep it simple.
Yeah, the money goes from the Info Edge balance sheet into the AIF. The AIF will invest, and then the AIF will get an exit. When the AIF gets an exit, the money comes back.
And knowing Info Edge, 1,000 crore, when it comes back, there would definitely be a big number around it.
I hope so.
Good luck. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.